So the scholars talk about the sources of knowledge. Like, where does knowledge come from? In class, when I ask this question, and I'm asking you now, where does knowledge come from? People say books. No, it doesn't. Where did the knowledge in the books come from? How did they get it? From experiments? Not necessarily. Experiments are not a source of knowledge. So what are the sources of knowledge? Go bigger. And if you go bigger, the source of knowledge will be one, the universe. So everything you learn will be from inside this universe. You know, if you learn about the movements of gases or star constellations, or, you know, this kind of amphibian or this kind of tree or plant, everything will be from this universe. Now, this is in the Western philosophy, they have one source of knowledge. And for Muslims, we have two sources of knowledge. And one of them, so yes, one is the universe. The other one is revelation. Revelation. And that can also be broken into two: direct revelation, meaning the Quran, or indirect revelation, meaning the Sunnah, al-Wahy al-Mubashir wal-Ghair Mubashir. Because everything in the universe now, you can learn, and you can learn through the senses, right? And that's why the sources of knowledge are revelation and the universe. The means of acquiring knowledge would be the senses. Touch. I learn through touching, don't I? I touch something that's red, and I learn, oh, that's hot. And I know it's hot because of the sense of touch. So I learn through the senses: touch, smell, sight, hearing, taste. But what's interesting is that for Muslims, we add the mind. The mind is one of the senses through which, or the faculties through which we acquire knowledge. And you know this very well. Sometimes you hear something for the first time, and just by turning it around in your head, by contemplating, you figure out more things and you come up with wisdoms and everything. So the mind is one of the means through which we acquire knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this very beautifully in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Wallahu akhrajakum min butuni ummahatikum la ta'lamuna shay'a." Allah brought you out of the wombs of your mothers not knowing anything. And then He mentions some of the faculties through which you learn. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And then He gave you hearing and eyesight and your minds so that you can be thankful. So some of you come out a clean slate, then you use the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Now moving on to observation, experimentation. All these are from the methodologies of gaining knowledge. An experiment is a methodology of learning more. It's not a source, and it's not one of the means, meaning the senses here. So that's why your intellect will not disagree with the Quran and the Sunnah. What I'm trying to say is that, so now that we have two philosophies, two sources of knowledge, all right, that because there are some things that you could never understand just by examining the universe. There is no experiment, no telescope, no microscope, no microphone that could let you know that when you do a good deed, Allah will multiply it by 10. You can never gain this information from the universe around you. Never. There is nothing you can do in this world, within our universe, including space, that will tell you that people go to Jannah and they stay in it forever. Or that the homes are made of gold in Al-Jannah. What experiment can you conduct to find that out? This information you can only find out through the first source of knowledge, which is revelation. You will never, from the exploring and observing the universe, you will never figure out that this is the case unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you. All right? And there's more interesting talk here about how this is important for Muslims as they're studying sciences to bear in mind, for example. So they sometimes have to fill in the blanks because philosophically, science is atheistic and materialistic. Meaning, atheistic meaning scientists will never say God is the reason for this. All right? And we're fine with that. Like they don't say in the biology book because God had made it that way. So they don't mention God. So atheistic in that sense. Not that it's unscientific to believe in God. That's a big common mistake and misconception. All right? And it's materialistic, meaning the answer has to be something material. That's why when you tell a scientist about jinn, you can't see them, no camera can catch them, what have you. So that, okay, it's not material, so it's just like a unicorn to me. All right? But it is also not illogical because we know that the Quran is the book of Allah. And we can prove that through many, many different ways. And then whatever Allah says then in that source, that revelation will be true. So Anyways, there's a lot more to that talk, but that's all it ties in very much to what we're talking about here or we're going to be talking about in Tafsīr Surah An-Nūr.